Hello, guys. Welcome to another segment of Archaeology with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. We have our friend Alyssa back with us again. And today she's going to show us how to make our own pottery. So I'll go ahead and let her take over.
Hi, like Ms. Raven said, I'm Miss Alyssa, and I work for the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. I work for their Heritage Trust program. That's their archaeology program. And today we'll be learning about pottery, because pottery is really important to early people. I don't know if I talked about it last time, but Pocky Island and the Pocky shell rings are around 4,000 years old, and we do a lot of work on them, and they are on coastal South Carolina. And we find a lot of pottery sherds there. And it's really cool because that pottery is very, very old, and it is sometimes highly decorated. So today we'll be working on making our own pottery and decorating it. So I have a few examples that I've made. And we have two different styles. We have pinch pots, which I have left undecorated. In pinch pots, you just roll some clay into a ball and then pinch it, basically. And then we have coil pots, which I've decorated with a number of items. And coil pots are made out of rolling a bit of clay into a little rope and then just coiling it on top of each other. I'm going to turn on the light so you guys can see a little bit better. And here are some of the decorations. So this would be some fingernail punctate, and when it's like just punctured, that's when they call it punctate. So some fingernail punctate, I used my thumb. And this is really cool, surprising. It's actually from the edge of a shell.
Cool.
I like this one. And so in coastal South Carolina, you have a lot of shell and not a lot of rock. So most of these are from shell or from grasses. And then I have some items that are a little closer to you guys. I'm in the Midlands. I have pine straw. I have a pine cone. If you go out and grab some things from outside, make sure there's nothing living on them, and also be careful with anything sharp like the pine cones. I have a little leaf that I found. I also try not to like grab anything off of the trees. And a little bit of grass. And I do have a rock. Ooh. So we'll see if I end up decorating with the rock. All right. And a feather. So you guys have a number of items. You have shells.
And feathers and the clay.
Okay. Great. You have a lot of clay. So you can either make multiple little pots, or you can make a little plate, or whatever you want. So to get started, we're going to unwrap our clay. And I already have mine out. I just had to pull it out of the box. But if you want to save some of your clay, you can just wrap it back in the wax paper and add a little bit of water.
Okay.
And if it starts getting dry while you're working on it, you can always add a little bit of water, just like from the sink or whatever. So I'm going to split mine in half. And I'm just going to knead it a bit, make sure it's nice and soft, and then we'll start making it into, we'll make this one into a pinch pot. It's a lot easier.
Okay.
So we're just going to roll this little section into a ball. And if you don't like it, you can always just knead it a little bit and make it into something else. It's really cool. And you have air dry clay, so you can play with it for a really long time until it dries out. and it's easy because you don't have to fire it. And so people who made pottery 4,000 years ago, they would have to collect the clay from mud pits and from clay pits, and they would have to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot harder for them. You can just go to the store and buy some.
Right.
But they would use their pottery to hold food, hold clothing, hold water to cook with. You can't really do that with air dry clay, but if you ever want to go to like a ceramics place, they usually have kilns, and you can make some real pottery that you can use as a mug or a cup. All right. So right now, for making the pinch pot, we're going to start by putting our thumb or whatever finger you want, and you're just going to push it down in the center. And since I have such a big ball of clay, I'm just going to turn my ball of clay a little bit while I push down gently. Makes it a little bit easier. You can use your knuckle and push down. And I don't know about you, but I have nails. I've let them grow out for the last couple of months and
Getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. So you just do that. And this is really easy. So once you make a little bit of an indent like that. Yep, perfect. So you can start going around the edges and thinning the edges out if you want. And if you want a flatter bottom, you can put it down on a flat surface, or you can leave it kind of rounded. You can be really creative when making pottery. It's whatever you want. You can make this as wide as you want. Just make sure it's not too thin, because if it's too thin, then it'll fall apart. Once you have it the way you want it, I think I'll leave mine kind of shallow with a thicker bottom. You can start smoothing out the edges and any cracks you have. And you do that by just taking your thumb or any of your fingers and just rubbing them along gently. And you might want a little bit of water if it's dried out. Might make it a little easier. Or you can take some of your shells, and you can use those to smooth it out. Maybe give it a little pattern. Yeah. So I've smoothed my inside out a little and given it some nice stripes. And don't worry if you get some clay on your shells, you can always just wipe it off while it's wet, or you can wait until it's dry and it'll just chip right off. And I think I'm going to use, let's see, I think I'll use my pine cone. And just gently run it across the side there.
Yeah.
down at the bottom. And you can layer it if you want. And so that's what it looks like when you roll the pine cone on it. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that.
It looks cool.
It does. And maybe I'll use my whelk shell. Maybe go in between. You can use different parts of the shell to make different patterns, different imprints. And I have this shell. It's like an urchin shell. Let's see what that looks like. If you want to just try out different patterns, you can always just smooth a bit away and just go on top of it.
Oh.
Yeah. You have a nice spiny imprint. Let's see. And I also have a little bit of burlap. So it's just random fabric. We have you can fold that up or you can just lay it out straight. Just press it on. You can do that with any fabrics that you have that are okay to be used. And some clay. I'm a fan of burlap. I think it makes a really nice pattern. Yeah. So that's just like the basic pinch pot. And so I'm not going to keep this one because I already have a lot of examples. But if you guys want to keep yours, you can just leave it out, put it outside for a bit, or just leave it on the windowsill, or just let it sit somewhere warm.
How long does it take to dry?
Around 24 hours, I'd say, depending on how thick it is. You might want to leave it for about 2 days just to be safe. Yeah. But that's your first pot.
Cool.
All right, so now we can move on to our coil pot. And I'm going to put this aside because it's gone a bit dry. Use my other half. And like the first time, I'm going to break off a little bit less than before. And I'm going to knead it for a little bit. And if you'll remember, this is one where we're just going to roll it into a little rope. And if you have little hands, you might want to break it up a little bit more. So a little goes a long way with making a coil, especially if you want to make it thin. You just rub it between your hands, or you can put it on your table or your flat surface and just roll it out that way. And that way you'll get a really even roll. If you notice any cracks while you're working on it, that's fine. You can either smooth those out now, or you can wait until you've started coiling up your pot. And when you've gotten the thickness you like, and this is another like creative moment. You can choose how thick or thin you want it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter how long you're going to make it because you're just going to attach it to other coils.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to start with this medium-sized coil, piece of rope, and I'm just going to roll it in on itself. Remember, if it gets a little dry, you can always add a little bit of water, and that'll help stop some of the cracking.
I think I need a little.
Flatten it out a little bit, especially if this is going to be your base. I think I'm going to make mine a little bit wider. Let me try and match this one. I'm going to grab a little bit more clay. This whole one. I'm going to start the process over. Knead it a little bit. And then roll it out into a rope. And this is going to be my base. And I'm just going to, so here I have a new coil ready to start. And I'm just going to push it on and then rub it so they meld together a little. So I want it to be like you smooth out the cracks. Going to smooth it out. And then for the rest, you're just going to do like before and roll it around each other. Maybe flatten it a little bit if you want. And you can either keep the coil design or you can smooth it out. Especially since we won't be using these to hold any liquid. And definitely feel free to leave it coiled.
Cool.
Yeah. Perfect. So it looks like a big snail. And then you can either keep going and making your base wider, or you can start building up your layers to make whatever you want. And so you'll see here, I have a lot of coils that are separate, that I've made separate times. So here's one, here's another one. And you can make it into sort of pattern. You can braid it into each other. Here's another one. And there's one. There's my very end. Let's see. That's all for that one. This one, I had really short coils for this one. Right. So to start layering, you'll start all over again with your little bit of clay, knead it a little bit, roll it out into a rope. And then once you've gotten the length or the width you want, might take a little while to make mine too wide. And you can use both hands and slowly spread your fingers out if that helps a little. Might make the process go by a little bit faster. You're making the coil rope thing. And then I'm pretty happy with this. So I'm going to lay it on top of my base. I'm going to try and line it up. I'm going to press it down. And like before, when I was adding a new layer, I'm going to rub it just a little bit. So it stays together. And then I'm just going to wrap it on top. And if you want to make like a vase or a pitcher that has like a shape, kind of like an hourglass shape, you can always widen your coil, make it wider, go over the base, and then come back in. Or if you want to just stay the basic pot or cup shape, you just lay it directly on top. So mine, you can press it down a little bit to make sure it's all sticking together.
Close.
Yeah. And I think I'll do like what I said about making it a little bit wider and going a little bit over my base, just so you can see how that looks.
Okay.
And then I think after that, well, I'll be done with this one. I think I just want a wider mouth to my pot. But I think I wanted to keep it pretty short. And sometimes you can just like squeeze it a little if you want like a not quite even shape to your rope. And that's just another design choice you can make. Let's see. And I think this is probably long enough. Right. And mine broke a little, and that's okay. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider, so I'm going to add it just on the outside
Oh,
of this last piece. And just like before, and rub it a little so it sticks. And then I'll press it a little bit. You can keep making it wider, adding it just on the outside. And there you go.
nice.
Yeah, a little messy, but yeah, you get the idea how to do it. And you can see, you just keep going out like that and then bring it back in. Have a nice hourglass shape. And now I think I'm ready to decorate this one. You ready? Yeah. So I have a lot more things to use to decorate. So if you guys want to go outside and grab things or around the house, you can. So I know some people have chickens or quails, and I wouldn't recommend snatching the feathers out of the birds because that's mean. But if they ever just drop some, you can clean it and then use it for this. And you can use the end. I also wouldn't recommend picking up feathers from just like outside if you don't know those birds. Yeah. And they make this really cool rounded pattern. Kind of like fingernail punk tape.
Yeah.
And you can also use this part of the feather. I'm going to try this on my little flat piece. Better see what the patterns look like. And just, if you use a feather or something soft, you want to be pretty gentle with your clay. You don't want to get it stuck to the feather or anything.
Gotcha.
Or break your pot, because pot's pretty soft. All right, and so that's what my feather looks like.
The feather doesn't really show up.
Yeah. Hair's kind of soft and downy. And so you can experiment with different feathers different types of items, different grasses, different leaves, and different parts of the feathers and leaves and everything you've collected.
Oh.
Yeah. And so mine is coming out with a really strange shape because I have mine cut for the quill.
Gotcha.
For ink making. So yeah. That's not what they usually look like.
How's doing that?
Yeah. And I'll use some of my pine straw. I found some green pine straw that just freshly dropped off and some that just been hanging in the tree for a while. So I'll see if that makes a difference. I don't think it will. Maybe. I think these look exactly the same. So, dried brown pine straw, a little bit of green pine straw. Same.
Same.
Yeah. And let's try out my little leaf. Let's see, what side do I want? At both sides. So I tried at both sides of my leaf. This makes me think of fossils, Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah. Fossil vibe.
I like that one. Let's see. And all I have left, I think, is my rock. So we'll see what that looks like. And then I will have used all of my decorating materials. Dropped my piece of clay on the floor.
Okay.
Flatten down a little. Also, you can use your hand as a pattern because I can see if I press down. You can see my handprint a little bit. So now I'm ready for my rock. Let's see. My rock has a lot of holes in it, so I'll try not to get any clay in that. That's pretty cool. All right, so I used several different sides of my rock. I got this little bit and these little punctures, and then just kind of like a flat texture here.
That's cool.
Yeah. If you want, you can just make like little gorgets and just like have little flat medallions, and you can decorate those.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Right. So yeah, that's how you make coil pots and pinch pots. You can make them as big or as small as you want.
Here's my coal pot.
Decorate them. Oh, that's nice. We've been working away with that.
Just went up and up.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I think I'm all done decorating mine and showing off. I have So, all right. Well, that's all I have to share today for making pots and pottery. So thank you. It was fun.
Great. Thanks for hanging out with us again. And we'll do this again one more time next month. We'll see you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.